So as a journalist, we get to all these early media events. So every few years, my husband would come with me, just as basically he would say, I'll hold the literature for you, because back when they were handing out literature and such. And we were in the Detroit arena, the Cobo Arena, and Ford had this big presentation, which I still have recorded on my phone, and they brought out the GT350R. And everyone was going crazy because there were 37 original GTs. Of course, Ford thinks it's 39, but that's a whole dispute. There's actually 37 per the Shelby American Automobile Club. And they brought the car out, and they were like, everyone was going crazy. It was a best kept secret. No one knew they were going to do a 350R, and they're only going to build the first 39 cars. The vehicle identification number matches the vehicle. Other than that, they're just random Ford numbers matching random Shelby numbers. So my husband's like, we gotta get one of these. I'm like, all right. And then of course they go, and we have one last thing, but wait, there's more. They bring out the GT, and we're just like, wow. But they also said that they're gonna put some controls on who gets these cars, and you have a 2-year hold. So if you get one, you had to fill out all this paperwork, and they want social media, and they want to know who you are. You had to have an early GT beforehand, which we did. We had an '05 GT in silver tungsten. It had been modified. It was actually owned by a celebrity. Sometimes it's good to pick up those cars because they don't know what they have. But it was interesting. So I'm watching this car. I'm thinking, oh boy, I really like to get one of these GTs. They're built by Multimatic, where the early cars were Ford production that went racing. The later cars are race cars, purpose-built race cars that were detuned a touch for the street. So it was more like bringing in a dog that wants to run. I mean, every time you drive a new GT from 2017 to 22, it's like having a big dog that wants to run and you can't hold onto the leash. You know, it depends how good you are, right? I send in the application thinking, I don't know, I talked to my buddy Jim Owens. Everyone seems to know him in the Ford world. And we've known each other forever because he used to work for Carroll Shelby. And we knew Carroll very well. We named our daughter Shelby. She met him before he passed many times. They signed each other's pictures because Carroll kept a file, anybody named Shelby or Carroll. So I thought, I'll do what I can. I should get one of these. I don't know what number it's going to be, but I'll be lucky to get one. So while we're waiting for that process to happen, I call Jim Owens and say, hey, listen, can you get me a Shelby, a 350R? I'd like to have one because we have old 65, 66 Shelbys. My husband's the #1 restorer of early Shelbys. He's won at Amelia Island. He's won Detroit Concours. He's won Greenbrier. He's won all these shows. And I said, can you help me? He said, yeah, I can get you a 350R. We'll get you an early one. So he calls me back weeks later and says, I got you chassis 27 of 39. He said, you're lucky you got it. He said, but that's the number I got for you. I said, great, I'll take it. So that car, actually we sold it to a museum. It's now in a museum. But we were like pretty excited to get it. Didn't think much of it. Got the car. Still waiting on the GT. I got a call from Jim Owens. Gotcha, chassis 27. I'm like, I go, how 27? He goes, well, you were 27th on the list. So they put everyone into a computer and there was an algorithm. You had to have an earlier GT. You had to have social media reach. You had to promote the vehicle. You weren't going to park it. You were going to drive it. And you were going to do all kinds of stuff. You're going to keep talking about the product. And since I was also the president of North American Car and Truck of the Year at the time, I used my pull and they said, we got a car. So like, okay, so now we're collecting 27s. I don't know why we're collecting 27s, but apparently I'm the 27th most important person or something silly, or I ranked in their algorithm. It's interesting, the process of the car. You get your ordering kit, and then you figure it out. And we're not big fans of black cars. That's like the color I would never buy. And at the time, we were thinking, we'll do blue or red or something really cool. But the car was $60,000 more with one of those colors, or you could buy a Heritage for less. So we bought the Heritage, because we figured, all right, we don't know how many they're going to build. And they kept calling me saying, hey, you sure you want this car? We can move you to 2018. There's a different Heritage. You can pick a different color. And I'm thinking, I know they're going to jack up the price. So we were waiting for the Krepovich exhaust. And they said, no, we're trying to sell. You can buy it without it. I said, I'll wait. I get that opportunity by talking to Raj Nair and a bunch of other people that I can go up to Multimatic because I live in Buffalo. It's 2 hours away. I bring a full crew in. The full crew, the legendary motor car crew, actually. Peter Clute sent me his crew, and his son was there. And we shot a full day of interviewing people, the 10 different stations, the inspection, including the inspection of our car, because there were only 14 cars that were Heritage that year, because they didn't build the full number they were going to build because they were still learning. The goal was a car a day. There was no way. These guys were all hand building these cars. It was beautiful. It was like an orchestra. It was fabulous. And the inspection people were all Ford people. Talk about a job. So your job is you get to move to Canada and do nothing but inspect GTs. I can do that. That would be fine. So we were there watching, and most of them were there at the time. Those of us waiting for things like titanium lugs, which again they were behind because a lot of that stuff came from other areas. We get our car, and finally it shows up. And when does it show up? It shows up at Thanksgiving time. So I can't take delivery of this thing. They can't even get the rig down my street because he would not be able to get off my street. I live in Buffalo, and it was snowing, so we had it delivered to the Buffalo Transportation Museum, and it slept there essentially. We had a party and brought a bunch of people in, car people. It slept there until the spring. We had to get it out, and I'm on the board of directors there, so it's always good to know people. The car is fabulous, so it's chassis 27. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is good. We have a GT. We're not selling it. We're keeping it. We can't believe we have it. We had to sell a Cobra and a whole bunch of other cars because to pay for these cars, a lot of people don't talk about that, is it's half down on order. So, and it's not like you can go, I'll just go to the bank and take a line of credit on my house. No. You wire them the money and it can't have any liens against it because they didn't want to get stuck with people's cars. Unlike Ferrari, they go a 3-year lease at the end, then you could buy it. That's what they should have done. And then you could have easily controlled who owned the vehicles. But instead, we took ours on the MSO, which means it was never titled. And because we're a dealer. When the car was delivered, it was supposed to be delivered. We got the call, hey, you're going to get the delivery. We had to pay the balance. And then we had to wait weeks to get the car. It was worse than I could have had 2 children in the same time period that it took to get this damn car because it was an early car. So the car finally shows up, and it's a great car. It's probably one of the best vehicles we've ever had, and it's always been one of my favorite cars. If people say, do you have a car of your dreams? It's like, I'd love to have a 250 GTO, short wheelbase, but back to reality, this is a dream car because it has everything. It rides, it handles, it's just a looker. It never looks outdated. And certain colors make the lines of that vehicle just super sexy. But it is an amazing car and fabulous. So GT500 comes out. To get one, you want a golden ticket car. It means it has to have the track pack. It's got to have the carbon pack. You want the painted stripes. You want this thing to be like loaded if you're going to get one. So I get a phone call, Jim Owens. I got Jesse 27 for you. I'm like, what the heck is with 27s? So we have a GT500 in chassis 27. It's a golden ticket car. It's also, that is probably the best car Ford has built because they didn't build the GTs. But that car is so well balanced and put together. And I was disappointed it didn't come in a manual. But the car is great on the track. It eats up tires, but that's any good car will. Again, a car that I'm not going to sell because it's just too much fun. So they come up with the GT350R Heritage. Anytime you hear the word Heritage, anytime you hear special edition like the Brittany Blue for the GT500, you know that's the end of the run. That's how Ford does it. Other companies do as well. But usually when there's a special edition, it's the end. So that was the end. We got our 350R, except it wasn't chassis 27 because it came damaged. So I got damaged in transportation, and they had to build us a special one, which we still have. And those, of course, have doubled in value. I don't know how, but because they were only like $80,000 cars. And they're going for 160, 170 on Bring a Trailer all day long. So it's a manual. It's the last of the manuals. Of course, now they got the 24s, and they're going to bring the manual back because we want them. 3 pedals, yes. It's a really cool car, but it's not 27, unfortunately. So we broke the 27 run. My Bronco Raptor is not a 27, thank God.
We'd like to thank Glossit for supporting the VINwiki channel this month, and right now Glossit is offering the best DIY ceramic coating package that we've ever seen or certainly offered here on VINwiki. For just $69.99, you're going to get their graphene ceramic coating along with the Real Difference Maker, their ceramic detail spray. Now that's a $50 bottle of spray detailer that I truly love just for daily use, but when you use that alongside their graphene ceramic coating, it makes the removal a lot easier, the outcome a lot smoother, you avoid high spots and things like that. So a DIY idiot like me in my own garage can achieve an outcome pretty similar to what Rich and his team were able to do last year on the Paris Hilton SLR, which I eventually torture tested on rallies and road trips and all this stuff, and it is now in Bulgaria, still looking wonderful. So check it out now at the link in the description below. There's a very limited quantity, so respond now and get yours for just $69.99. Thanks, Glossit.